And welcome everybody to another episode of Hollywood Kitchen. We got to get ready for Thanksgiving, and Hattie McDaniel is going to make that possible this year for us. So we're going to talk about Hattie's life, her legacy, and her food. And I am joined here by my wonderful TCM friends and colleagues, Ruth Munsack, who's been on many episodes of Hollywood Kitchen.
Hello.
Hello, and Danny Miller, also a frequent Hollywood Kitchen contributor.
And a big Hattie McDaniel fan.
Yes, and by the way, we should add, we are currently in Danny's historic home in the West Adams district of Los Angeles, and it is literally a stone's throw from Hattie's mansion, which still stands today.
And her resting place that we visit often, just down the street at Rosedale Cemetery.
Yes. So I thought we would kind of do a little bit of chatting, but we also got a lot of cooking to do because we have to make this stuff off camera in this episode. And then while we're working on that, we're going to play a 1 hour interview I recorded this week with the incredible Donald Bogle. And we love Donald Bogle. He is fantastic. He is the ultimate authority on the history of African American cinema.
And a fan of
A
TCM.
fan of TCM. He's been on TCM frequently. He's almost at every TCM festival. And he's the recipient of the Robert Osborne Award.
Yes.
And he couldn't be nicer, too. He's such a nice man. And due to his teaching schedule in New York and Pennsylvania, both, we had to kind of pre-record the interview earlier this week, but it's absolutely worth seeing. So we'll get started a little bit, though, before we go to the Donald interview. How did you guys first discover Hetty?
For me, it was Gone with the Wind. That was my gateway into Hattie McDaniel's completely. Um, as I was watching AMC back in the day, that was my way, and they had a good way of telling the story too, introducing it, giving you tidbits, and then of course there's always the internet.
I think for me, it was even before I happened to see Gone with the Wind. It was Since You Went Away, which I think was so great. And as Fidelia, is that how you pronounce her name? I think she just carries that great Selznick film with Claudette Colbert, Jennifer Jones, Shirley
Temple, yeah.
She just, and of course, then when I saw Gone with the Wind, I mean, like, what would that film be without her? And then started researching all the trials she had to deal with in her career, but, rose above them. I'm sure you'll talk with Donald about her winning the first Academy Award as a Black actor.
Yes.
And her interaction with Mae West. And in early films together too. I really loved them together. And of course, that ties in with Cary Grant and Mae West. That Mae, she was really on it, wasn't she?
She a good thing when she saw
really
one.
did. She really
An eye
did.
for talent
Yes,
right there.
yes. She knew her stuff and other people's.
And for her early stuff, I also love her in the first Showboat, the one
Yes.
long before. She's
Yes,
wonderful in
really
that.
done, yes.
I was at a pre-code screening at the UCLA Film Archive a while back. I forget which one, but anyway, Hattie just had a small role, and the minute she came on screen, the whole audience went nuts and started clapping and cheering. I mean, she popped off the
Yes,
screen.
yes, yes.
And you just cannot deny it. And then, as Donald and I later talk about, the minute she's gone, you're like, no, 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 bring her back,
Yes,
bring her
yes.
back. She just injects this like adrenaline shot into any movie that she's
And
in.
that's been the delight of when you discover new movies, via TCM or other avenues, and then there she is, because all the time there's a surprise coming, as people discover other films that are out there. So yes, you are always delighted when she comes on, and even though it's not a big role or anything, she just gives it to you. So yes, she is definitely a delight and a treasure to have.
And by the way, and I'm guessing you're going to talk about this too, but during the war, she was so instrumental. She raised a ton of
Yes,
money
yes.
for war bonds and did a lot of entertaining and hosting of especially of Black servicemen.
Hmm.
I just could not admire her more. There's great pictures of her in front of the house that's really close to here and at one point Betty Davis was there with
Very
her.
much so. Yeah, they formed a great friendship, is my understanding. She and several other actresses of the day.
Great Lie, another great movie that she's in.
Yes, yes,
Fairly often
yeah,
on TCO. I think that is an unsung Hattie
yes,
Burns.
without a doubt,
Mhm.
without a doubt.
You know?
So you can see that they all work together, when it comes down to it, and then Hollywood's still like that to this day. They come together when when people are in need or there's an issue. So
I
yes.
did some research in the Chicago Defender archives, which was a big national black newspaper at the time, and it was so fun to see her really like the focal point of these articles as opposed to the side point in the regular press.
Mhm.
But she did get some, and I'm sure she'll talk about this too, so I won't go on about it, but she did get some criticism even in the black community for playing those parts because that's all that was available to her. But boy, did she, and her famous line, which
I'd
she really
I'd
said,
rather play a maid than be a maid.
yeah.
Yes.
But she always brought more to the role than may have been on the page.
Mhm.
And a lot of people then defended her, including today, obviously, for taking those roles.
Well, it's funny on my tour. She has a memorial marker at Hollywood Forever, which we'll talk. Donald and I discuss. But at one point, I had these people on my tour. They were white, and I was talking about her, and they go, "Well, why don't you just fight for better parts?" And I kind of looked at them, and I go,
What era?
"That's 1930s Hollywood."
Okay, I'll play Scarlet.
Yeah.
I'm going to fight for it.
Yeah, if she stormed in Selznick's office and demanded better parts, he would have been like,
She would have
Bye-bye.
become a real maid. So
I'll get you Louise Beaver. I'll find someone else to do
Yes,
this part if
yes.
you're going to give me a problem. So she didn't have I mean, if she would have, it would have blown up in her face. So she did what she had to do. And I feel like the more I learn about history, the more I try not to judge people because you don't know what you would do if you found yourself in a certain time period, in a certain situation, what kind of choices you would make out of sheer necessity.
Right.
You know?
Even people that were criticized, like Stephen Fetchit, but she was not playing those kind of parts, even if she was the maid or mammy. She was bringing her own to it.
Yes, she definitely owned the role. She didn't just take the words off the page. She owned it and made it hers without a doubt. And that's what made her stand out, if you ask me. She did what she could, but we all do what we could in the time that we live in.
Yeah.
So you have to, you can't. What would she do? Like, oh, I'm gonna storm in there and give him a piece of mine.
Yeah, I mean, Donald and I talk about this, but even Betty Davis and Olivia de Havilland fought with Warner Brothers and had problems. And if they did, you can imagine what it would have meant if she had tried to stage some kind of revolt. And yes, there was an independent market, the race films that were made outside the studio system, but I doubt those were going to pay the bills.
Exactly.
I doubt those had plentiful roles either for a lady like Hattie. So again, I think she did what she could do.
How many A-list films was she in, including the A-list of them all?
A-list of A, yes.
And the fact that she won that Oscar over, Olivia de Havilland, her co-star in the film, and all those people, it's really incredible. I wonder if you talk about with Donald, like, there was always talk that the studio wrote her acceptance speech for her.
We actually did get into that part, but I mean, there's so much to talk about. We only have like an hour, but I heard that, but I don't know if that's true.
I don't either. And I was happy to find.
Imagine that she would go let that happen.
And she was very emotional.
Yes.
But I was happy to see in my Chicago Defender research a picture of her looking very honored at the next year's Oscars, dressed beautifully. I don't know if she did it on the actual broadcast or however they did on the radio, but she was presenting as the next year's winner, and looked gorgeous. So this idea that they like put her in the back and everything, I hope her experience at the Oscars was good. I know she was not at the Atlanta premiere of Gone with the Wind, which Clark Gable fought for, apparently, but it was Atlanta in 1939.
And she and Gable had such a friendship. I mean, you can see it on screen. I don't think you can almost fake rapport as good as what they had in that film. And I heard he even advocated for her to get the part because they'd made China Seas and Saratoga.
Yeah, they knew each other. So, because you were running. There weren't a lot of people. So they were running in the same circles.
The scene when he gives her that red petticoat, I'm sorry, I could watch that on a loop.
It ain't fitting. That is one of my favorite lines that she does.
Yeah.
She just gets to fussing with him, and you can tell it's good fun. Then they probably were like that on the set.
Yeah. I haven't read that much about her relationship with Vivian Leigh. Do you know anything about that?
I have not heard much about that.
But their scenes together were gold.
Yes, and I can see them probably being very friendly with one another, but also, Vivian Leigh being a Brit and whatnot, they aren't always the warmest people.
But when Scarlett's trying to get her cleavage up, and Maddie takes her dress and just hikes it up. I mean, it's comedy gold. I wonder if that's even in the script.
It
Have
is.
you ever seen the documentary about the making of Gone with the Wind where they showed the screen tests of Paulette
Yes,
Goddard?
yes,
Yes.
yes, I have seen that.
You-
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, that would have been an interesting
Yeah.
version.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it
Yes.
was sometimes Hattie McDaniel, and then sometimes some of the other, was it Louise Beaver? Some of the
Probably
other.
her, and but you can see the chemistry that
Mhm.
when you see those two, you're like,
Yeah.
that's it,
Yeah,
that's the one.
yeah.
It's so obvious,
Mhm.
you know. And yeah, she was just a magnificent woman.
And not to mention, she did stand her ground, where she decided to buy her house and and have
She helped break the restrictive covenants in
Yes,
this neighborhood.
yes.
In
So-
fact, we bought the house from this wonderful woman, Mama Hazel, who was known in the neighborhood, and she was the first person on this block, thanks to Hattie McDaniel and breaking the restrictive covenant that
Yeah.
did not allow them to
Yeah.
sell to Black people or Jewish people.
So you have to pick your battles.
Mhm.
So she wasn't going to get her paycheck stopped, but by God, she was going to use it to buy where she live where she wanted to live.
Mhm.
And her house still stands and it's beautiful. I hope the people inside know that it's Hattie McDaniel's house.
When
They must know the history of it.
They have.
They
I
have
did
to.
talk to her nephew because I tried to get him for this episode and I couldn't, but we did speak and via Messenger. And he told me that the original stove Hattie cooked on is still in that house. And I was like, oh, wish I could get
Those
it.
owners better not do a kitchen redo. And
No.
if they do, we have to be in the alley.
See, now that's why we
Seriously.
needed to storm the gates. That's what we needed to do. We needed to storm the gates.
Can you imagine having Hattie McDaniel's
Stove.
Stove.
Yeah, I just.
Actually, you know what's funny? Okay, many, many years ago, probably 2016, 2017, this gentleman who used to be at the Pacific Palisades Historical Society,
Mhm.
he messaged me last minute and he's like, Carrie, I don't know what you're doing tomorrow. I know this last minute. I can get you into Thelma Todd's Beachside Cafe for a private tour with an architecture firm. Are you in? And I was
You're
like,
going.
oh yeah, everything I have tomorrow be canceled. I'll be there. And we had to wear like hard hats. There were parts of it we couldn't go into, which of course I did anyway. But there was a staircase and her broiler where she cooked lamb was at the top of
Ooh.
the staircase, still there like 90 years later.
Wow.
And I was like, I wandered up the staircase and they got mad and made me not do that anymore.
You
But
need to get that.
it's really cool though. And I don't know what's happened to it since. I mean, I know it was spared from the Palisades fires,
Oh,
which
okay.
is good.
That's good to know.
But I don't know what's the status
Yeah.
of the building now.
I've never been on an episode with you where we didn't have the discussion. Do you think they really made these recipes or not? And I mean, I don't know about these, but like somehow I bet some of this was her. I've seen lots of things of her in the kitchen and things. Do you think these recipes were really?
Personally, I think that these are things that she made.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised because we know Vincent Price cooked, and there are other
Yeah.
people
Joan
who really
Crawford, Dietrich.
did, cook.
And with that great oven in her beautiful huge house, she was constantly entertaining.
I talk about that because Donald said that she threw these huge parties where everybody
Mhm.
in the African American community in Hollywood was there, and some of the white people in it too. And he said that she didn't always cook for the parties, but she had catering and staff, and she
Yes,
supervised.
yes.
And she was very elegant and really loved to entertain. And he said Lena Horne said her house was the most beautiful she'd ever seen, the best of everything,
Mhm.
antiques, china,
Mhm.
food,
Mhm.
like that. She was a very regal, elegant lady.
And cooking is very personal because it's your time and your labor, and you're putting yourself into it, and you're having people come into your home, and that's very prevalent in a lot of communities, but I definitely know that in the African American community.
Sure.
You and then you leave with a plate. You get to take some to go too. So
As you two will leave today, because I made two of her dishes that we'll try later, and I
Yes.
felt Hattie's soul in
Yeah.
me when I was cooking it.
So I think, and I really enjoy cooking myself personally. I like
You're a great cook.
finding things to have reason to have people over, so we can eat, because it's a great way to share, and it's fun to use some of these recipes. And I truly believe that she was a good cook. She did
Yeah.
do a lot of cooking, and I think it was just in her background also.
Yeah.
That's just the way it was.
And Ruth doesn't fool around. Hattie's recipe said, steam your pumpkin, and Carrie and I might have gotten a canned pumpkin. No,
I did last year for
she
Thanksgiving.
steamed
Yeah.
it.
No,
She
Ruth-
steamed it.
Yeah, and it's amazing because their recipes are good. A few years ago on the Oscar cook along I did make the cornbread
Ah.
for
Mhm.
Oscar Sunday one year, and
Mhm.
it was excellent. She did not let me down. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. When we decided what recipes, there were a ton of Thanksgiving recipes that Hattie had. We didn't get to all of them, which future episodes, but we've got the cornbread, the sweet corn pudding, and the pumpkin pie. So those are coming up. We're going to
Yes.
talk about how we made them, how we did them, how they taste. So, and Ruth, you're such a good cook. When I royally screwed up Dean Martin's chicken burgundy, you were like, step aside, Carrie. I got this.
Just,
Oh, it was a crime scene, Ruth.
That's what it was. Let's call it what it was. I tried, but yeah.
but cooking's fun, and it's a great way to add a spin on something, and that's sometimes what I do. I make the recipe the way it says. I follow it all, and then sometimes I'll make it again, and I'll put my own little spin on it. But food's a great way to show your love of people and camaraderie. So I really enjoy it, and there's always food in classic film. There's always food
Yeah.
and cocktails.
Oh, yeah. Well, plus, just in October, I moderated an event at the Philosophical Research Society about the intersection of food, grief, and death, because
Yes, yeah.
kind of my two big interests, I guess. And it was actually a wonderful conversation because we had a very diverse, fascinating panel of people. And it's kind of is a way to channel your ancestors and all the people who came before you when you eat the food from your family, from your history.
Mhm.
And there's something so visceral about the texture, the taste, the smell. It's like, it's a very profound thing.
That is true with death. There's rituals to it.
Yeah.
Every culture has their ritual or their version of it, depending on how far from it you are. People make other rituals, as the years go on. And food is very much a part of it.
Very
When
much.
something you see
I don't trust any group where that's not a
they
part
don't
of
bring
it.
you food, whatever's going on, someone's got to bring you, a casserole or something. And that's their way of saying, we got you, going to make sure that you're going to be okay. And it makes people feel good to be able to give, and especially in that time.
Absolutely. So we're going to get to cooking and get to the kitchen. And meanwhile, while we're doing that, I'm going to play an interview that I did with Donald Bogle the other day. It's about an hour. And while we're doing that, we're also going to be back in the kitchen finalizing that pumpkin pie. So we'll be back shortly.
See
See you
ya.
soon.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hollywood Kitchen. And I'm really excited about this one. We have the preeminent film historian, Donald Bogle, who has written a tremendous amount of very important and seminal books on the African American experience in film history, and is the recipient of the Robert Osborne Award from Turner Classic Movies, where you can see him very frequently as a contributor. So, we're going to talk about Hattie McDaniel, her life, her career, her food, and her legacy. So,
Yes,
thank
yes.
you for joining me.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm happy to be with you today, and I'm really happy that you're doing something on Hattie. Hattie was quite a hostess, and she enjoyed entertaining, having people in, and so forth. And so, to do a recipe of hers it's just terrific. It's a nice tribute.
Thank you. A few years ago, I do an annual Oscar cook along, and a few years ago, I made her cornbread for the Oscar cook along, and it was so good. And then last Thanksgiving, I test drove and made her pumpkin pie, which was fabulous. She's not let me down ever, and I don't think she
Great,
will. I don't think she will.
great. I would love to have tasted that cornbread. So,
Next time you come to Los Angeles,
yes,
we'll hang
yes.
out in my kitchen, and I will make you a mess of
Oh,
that
that would be
cornbread.
fabulous. That would be fabulous. It would. So,
So, in talking about Hattie, there's so much to talk about. I guess my first question would be, when did you first discover her work?
well, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and when I grew up, you could see old movies on television, the way people can do today with TCM. But this was before TCM, and as a kid, I would see a number of old movies, and I'm sure that that's where I first saw Hattie McDaniel. There was something about her. If you see The Little Colonel with Shirley Temple and Bill Robinson, or if you see China Seas with Clark Gable and Jean Harlow, or Saratoga with Clark Gable and Jean Harlow, Hattie is in those movies, and I can remember seeing her very young and being struck, one, by that voice. It was such a big, powerful voice, and then struck by her presence, that Hattie always had a kind of audacity about her, an assurance, confidence. But I saw her, I'm fairly certain, on these old movies, and I knew about Gone with the Wind, but it took me a while to see it. And finally, when I did see Gone with the Wind, I was just, I was just sort of blown away by this power that she had, and by the quality of her work, because she gives a really terrific performance in Gone with the Wind. And I knew by the time I saw Gone with the Wind that this was a historic role. She had won the Oscar for this movie as Best Supporting Actress of 1939. And she was the first African American to ever win. And for a long time, there wasn't another win. There wasn't even another nomination for competitive Oscars. Ethel Waters was nominated in 49 for Pinky, supporting actress. She didn't win, but that nomination was important. But nonetheless, there have been 10 years between even a nomination. And then Dorothy Dandridge was nominated for Carmen Jones, lead actress in 54, and Sidney Poitier finally won for his performance in Lilies of the Field, 1963. So it was really, it was so historic. And for a long time, no one even got anywhere near that level of honor from, I'm talking about no African American from the movie industry. So she was a groundbreaker, and that performance holds up today.
I've always thought her performance was the soul of the movie because she's the only one who will tell Scarlett Ashley doesn't want to marry you.
She's the only one, and also that she is the one character in the movie who knows Scarlett's every move and maneuver. Scarlett's mother really doesn't know. And other characters, and even Clark Gable's Rhett Butler, he figures Scarlett out, but he doesn't see all these things that Scarlett is doing. And it's Hattie McDaniel's character, Mammy. And McDaniel, she will speak up to Scarlett. She does not hold back. And there's that very famous scene where Scarlett is about to go to the barbecue, the Wilkes barbecue, and Hattie McDaniel wants her to eat, and Scarlett doesn't want to eat. And then Hattie McDaniel actually threatens her. She says, well, I ain't seen Mr. Ashley asking for to marry you. And none of the other characters know really the depth of Scarlett's feelings for Ashley. And Hattie McDaniel does. And so she threatens Scarlett O'Hara, and Scarlett O'Hara eats, does as Mammy tells her. So throughout the movie, there are those pivotal scenes, and quite frankly, it's very hard for anyone else to hold the screen when she's on screen. Vivien Leigh is terrific, and they match one another. And the same thing is true of Gable and McDaniel. But no one can really outshine her. They really can't. And that's quite, an accomplishment. She had real screen presence, and that, it's just you're just watching her whenever she is up on screen, no matter who she's with. But she got that Oscar, and of course it was historic. And when we look back at Hattie McDaniel, we think of what she had to endure during those years. There was criticism of characters that she played, and they were these stereotypes. That's all Black actors could get in Hollywood of the past. But I think she transcends them. I think that she just takes her characters in other directions, and she has a kind of agency that other Black performers really didn't have in Hollywood movies of the 30s and 40s for the most part. And that's what McDaniel does. But what I was going to say about her, and it's really a tribute to her, that she's in Gone with the Wind, and David O. Selznick, the producer, just knew that what McDaniel had given the film. And the thing was, when the movie opened in Atlanta, when it had its world opening, Hattie McDaniel could not attend. And because Gone with the Wind was playing at a segregated theater. And, it's been said that Clark Gable uh, was upset when he heard about this. And so he ended up going with Carol Lombard, his wife at that particular time. But he understood, and I think others in Gone with the Wind, the principal players, um, that this was a terrible thing that was done to Hattie McDaniel. And even when she won the Oscar at the Oscar festivities, and there are pictures of this, David O. Selznick seated with Vivian Leigh, Olivia de Havilland, other stars. Hattie McDaniel was not seated at that table. They seated her separately with her escort. And she she had to deal with this, and she did. And it's very interesting, and you can still see it on YouTube, when she gave her Oscar acceptance speech. It is one of the great acceptance speeches, and she's really wonderful. She's just she's wearing gardenias sort of in her hair, and she's so poised and composed. And also that her character, Mammy, it was a role. It was not who she was. And so it's a tribute to her acting skills, but you also see this other person, very, very dignified. And the Oscar speech is wonderful to see, and I'm glad it's been preserved for us.
You know what always gets me in reading about her and your
I
favorite
love it.
books is you just think, I can't fathom the frustration, the anger she must have felt at being discriminated against for the color of her skin, for she can't get certain roles. She has to fight to live in a certain neighborhood. She has to try to make people understand that, look, these are the only parts I can get. Because, on my cemetery tour, we'll talk about her grave in a minute, but at Hollywood Forever, we have a memorial marker for her. And one day, some people on the tour, they said to me, "Well, why couldn't she just have fought for better roles?" And I kind of looked at them and I said, because Hollywood in the 1930s. I mean, Betty Davis could maybe, but Hattie, if she'd fought with Jack Warner
Even
or
Betty
Chelsea,
Davis and Olivia de Havilland, it was tough for them.
yeah. So you can
They,
imagine.
they fought. But Hattie McDaniel won to get work, and I think with what she really worked at once she got a role, her her sort of attitude and focus was, what can I do with this? What can I say with this role? And you look at her in films, and again, it's this confidence she has, and she has no feelings of being inferior. She doesn't. That she and that's why when you see her with White Stars, she looks them right in the eye, and that's a statement. That's a statement. And when you see certain people who worked with her, Jean Harlow is one, that they had terrific rapport, and that in films they're talking to one another. That Hattie McDaniel has such presence that people really can't talk down to her in her movies, and so that's another thing. But as far as fighting for roles, we look back at this today, and people really didn't look at it in the 30s the way we look at it today, and the way that people looked at it during the civil rights era and so forth, or after World War II. They didn't. Some did. Some did speak out, but they didn't see it quite that way. And then what happened to Hattie McDaniel was that, as far as these roles, when World War II came, then people did start to look at the roles. They really did. And the Black press was writing about, just in general, that there were two V's: the victory abroad and the victory at home. And so then people were looking at roles, and then Hattie McDaniel was criticized by the NAACP. The interesting thing about her was that she there was so much talk about Lena Horne when Lena Horne came to Hollywood in the early 40s, and that she was going to change the image of Blacks in the movies. And in Black Hollywood, with actors who had played these servant roles, there was some resentment against Lena Horne. And it's very interesting. And Lena Horne told the story and told it more than once. She received an invitation to come to Hattie McDaniel's home. Hattie McDaniel wanted to have tea with her. And Lena Horne went. She said it was the most exquisite home she had ever seen. And Hattie McDaniel sat with her, and Hattie McDaniel told her she knew about this criticism. And she said to Lena Horne, look, you've got 2 children, which Lena did, and you have a career, you have to work, you have to take care of them. In essence, she was telling her, look, you do what you have to do, and don't let anyone hold you back. And Lena Horne was so grateful. She appreciated Hattie McDaniel really for the rest of her life, because she did speak of this. So what I'm saying is that Hattie McDaniel knew there was a change coming in roles and so forth. She understood it. She did not really fight it, and she supported someone who was seen as being an instrument of change. And that's a great thing. That really is a great thing that she did. She also in the Black Hollywood community, Hattie McDaniel was the queen. She was the one that everyone, really looked up to, because she had high standards. She was a wonderful hostess. She would give parties, and you would see a mix of people coming to her parties. Ebony Magazine, I think it was, did a feature on one of her parties, and someone like Esther Williams was there at the party. There was Hedda Hopper. There were people who really admired her. And we want to remember that these racial lines were still drawn. I mean, even socially, what people weren't supposed to do. But in this sense, white Hollywood, there were people who crossed that line because she was so important, and they realized it. So this was significant.
I've heard she and Clark Gable were friends.
Well, they were friends. I mean, he always liked. I mean, you see it in Gone with the Wind. You just see their rapport, and they were friends. I don't think they were best of friends, but they were friends, and he liked her, and was didn't hold back on appreciating her. And so this was also, he was the king of Hollywood. She was the queen of Black Hollywood, but an important community. And so they did very much have this great connection. Yeah.
And I was very lucky. I was at the TCM Film Festival when you introduced the Mad Miss Manton, which I had not seen before. And Hattie practically gives Barbara Stanwyck a run for her money in the movie.
Think so. I think so. It's interesting you mentioned Mad Miss Manton, because I've always liked that film, and who she is in it, because it just seems as if the writers are writing dialogue for her, and she's there with Barbara Stanwyck, this society figure, and Stanwyck's girlfriends who are giggly and immature and so forth, and society girls, and Hattie McDaniel sort of puts them in their place. Stanwyck's character loves it and appreciates it, but again, she has that assurance, and she's working also with Henry Fonda. There's a scene where she douses him with water and so forth, and then says, "Well, it's distilled water," and so she's very much at ease and at home in that film, and in so many other films. But the thing about her and Mad Miss Manton, again, that the writers recognized her talents, and there is just this dialogue that plays on her assertiveness, that plays on her way with a line, and this is something to see. Also, China Seas, again with Hattie McDaniel and Harlow, they have a great little scene together. And Hattie McDaniel is supposed to be a maid, but she seems more like Jean Harlow's traveling companion. There is just this conversation that they have, and they're like on equal footing, and that's really the actress. I'll tell you something else, Carrie. I saw the other actresses test who were testing for Gone with the Wind, and they were talented people, but they didn't have what Hattie had. And Selznick realized that she was able to hold her own, that she was not going to wither there in the presence of Scarlett, because that's not what her character, well, that's not what she felt her character should do. And so Selznick appreciated her and realized that. And audiences that they really watch today, there's no way you can help but appreciate her. So just a really great actress.
Absolutely. I just, like I was mentioning, I can't help but wonder just how did she cope with a lot of that frustration? I mean, I don't know that there was anybody else she could have called and said, "Hey, what did you do when this happened to you?" Because I don't know
There
that
really
she had an.
wasn't anyone else she could call, because she just broke ground. And the
Yeah.
thing about her, um, I think some of that stress and tension did become internalized. That's my feeling about it. That, and then her private life, she had 4 marriages, which was interesting, because she playing these mammy characters, these nurturing characters and so forth, that were asexual, that you didn't see them with love lives. The same thing was true of Louise Beavers, who was in the original 1934 Imitation of Life. But Hattie McDaniel off screen and Louise Beavers off screen, they had, shall we say, very active love lives and social lives, and so they were different from what they played. And so the thing about Hattie, with the 4 marriages, and none of them worked out, and then with the tensions of her career, I think that she kept a lot of it inside. I really do. Um, but it didn't stop her. Monique, when she won the Academy Award, supporting actress for Precious, and this is decades after Hattie McDaniel and decades after McDaniel has died, and so. And Monique said something to the effect, and it's on film. When she accepted her Oscar, she mentioned Hattie and thanked her for enduring so much, so that she, Monique, would not have to endure them today. And so, and Monique realized Hattie McDaniel had opened doors. It's a wonderful appreciation. It was Monique's great night to win that Oscar, but realizing historically the way things have been paved for her. So that's what McDaniel did. Hattie McDaniel also, during the war years, she worked to do things, and the troops were segregated, black troops, white troops, and so forth. And Hattie McDaniel did things to really promote, entertain the Negro troops. Lena Horne did also. So she had a real sense of country, and she saw what was happening with the war, and she knew that the Hollywood community was joining in, but she made a special effort, and that's a wonderful thing as well. I mean, she was a quality person. She really was, and she had such depth. But what you're saying, what you're asking, I look at her sometimes. I look at pictures, and I think of that kind of internal. I don't know if torment is the right word, but there had to be at times an ache inside, and also when the criticism against her, particularly by Walter White of the NAACP. Um, that had to have gotten to her as well. But she kept on. She kept working. After the Second World War, when these roles were changing, she went to radio. She had done radio before. Also, Hattie made recordings, and she had been on radio in the 20s, and she that after the war, she was on the radio show Beulah. She played Beulah, and it was an old kind of role, and she must have known it, but she wanted to keep working, and she did. And then Beulah went to television, and when it went to television, Ethel Waters played Beulah. Waters didn't stay; she stayed about over a year in the role, and then they brought Hattie McDaniel in, and McDaniel played Beulah. She only did a few episodes, and some are on YouTube, and you see her. She was not well. Physically, she wasn't well, and you can tell. And but she still had that love of performing, and still wanted to give something, and so it's interesting to see how the career kept going, but also to see the changes that had come about, and how even when she was really dying, she was, because she died in 1952, and so with the Beulah show, in a sense, she was nearing the end. So it was quite a career, and very, very moving. But also, when we look at the roles and how invigorating she is, how she adds energy to movies. And the other thing I must say about Hattie McDaniel and other Black actors like this, Eddie Rochester Anderson, who appeared with Jack Benny and on radio with Jack Benny, later television and in movies, and Paul Robeson, when sound came in, sound coming in the late 1920s, and then in the 30s, Hollywood needed voices. And, it changed many careers for white stars who were big stars in the silent period. They didn't survive during a sound. And the interesting thing is that there were certain voices that again added to the energy of sound cinema, and Hattie McDaniel's was one of them. I think Eddie Rochester Anderson was another. I think Paul Robeson, when you see him and in Showboat 1936, that great voice when he sings Old Man River, and he and Hattie worked together in the 1936 Showboat. But the voice, the sound, and so forth, all of these things that add to the momentum of a movie and to its effect. And she did. I think she had one of the great voices. It's a big sonic boom of a voice, and it was a voice that just it called you to attention. It was really it was a great voice and a great presence.
And she pops on the screen. I've been to screenings at the Academy or the UCLA Film Archive where she'll have a small role, but the minute she's on screen, the audience just starts cheering. Like in Blonde Venus with Marlene Dietrich. I mean,
yeah. Oh, yes, I love her in that when she sort of befriends Dietrich on the run. Oh yeah, that was one of the early things when I was working on my first book and I was searching for certain films, and I saw that. I believe I first saw it on television, and I said, "Can that be Hattie McDaniel?" Because it seems to me she's not billed in the movie. She did all of these films, and not all of them did she receive billing in them. So you may be going, like you're saying at UCLA, you may be going to see something and you don't really know she's in it, and then she pops up. But Blonde Venus was one of them. And then when I finally saw a better print, I said, yes, that is Hattie. It's great to see. And again, a small role that she's able to be riveting. for us. The other one is Alice Adams. If you see that, the George Stevens movie starring Katharine Hepburn and Fred McMurray, and Hattie McDaniel plays a maid working for, we'll say, the low income Adams family, and this is Hepburn's family in it, and she's a maid for hire, and it is hilarious that she sort of grunts and groans. She sort of feels, and this is what Hattie McDaniel would have done. I'm sure, that actors and actresses, they create backstories for their characters, and a backstory that isn't necessarily in the script, but it's something that the actors use to motivate their characterizations. And in that, it's almost, she feels like this is below her standard to work for this family, but she does. And she just, I mean, her little maid's cap is falling off her head. She's chewing gum and so forth. There is no way. I mean, here you have Hepburn, this supremely accomplished film actress. She can't take the screen from Hattie McDaniel. She can't. McDaniel just walks away with that dinner sequence, and when she's not on screen, you kind of want her to come back. That
Yeah.
it just adds to this film. But she has, there are other performances like that. And when she came to Hollywood, it was really 1931. She was one of 13 children, and her brother, Sam, her older brother, had gone to the West Coast, and she decided to go to the West Coast. She had appeared in minstrel shows. She had her own singing act with her sister, the McDaniel sisters. She'd done all this before Hollywood, and she gets to Hollywood, and Sam was working. He got her on to do things on a show that he did, the Optimistic Donut or Donuts. She's on that, but she still wasn't making a lot of money, and she sometimes had to do other work, but she stuck with it. And you can just, if you're lucky enough to see some of those early films when she didn't get credit, and so you can really see her working to get your attention. And with her, from her vantage point, it's the idea that if I do something in this one, maybe I'm going to get another role. Someone will see me, and maybe I'm going to be billed. And she was. And so she had tremendous discipline. She really did. That she had made up her mind once she finally was working in movies that she was going to make a career of it, and she did, which was not easy. So Hattie was really, it's quite remarkable all that she did. It is.
I agree. How do you think audiences view her today? Because I know in today's world, there's certain topics or things that are very polarizing. I mean, there's definitely places that won't show Gone with the Wind, for example. And sometimes people get very upset, but I feel like don't cancel Hattie, because
No, she shouldn't be canceled. And I think that something like Gone with the Wind and other things, I think that there should be some kind of comment before they're shown, which is what Turner Classic Movies, will do. And when I've been on with different things, and I've been on discussing Gone with the Wind, to point out these other aspects of what was happening, and then what the performer was working with or against. And I think that people, when they pull back and they can see, and it's not easy, because some of these roles, I'm not talking just about her, but some of the others, these roles, we hate seeing what Black performers had to go through. But nonetheless, if you can pull back and see what they're trying to tell us, and these covert messages, then it's something else. I show her to my students at the University of Pennsylvania, at NYU, And and they do it's interesting because with my classes, they do have an appreciation for her. They do, and sometimes she's very funny, despite stereotyping whatever, and and they will, they will see the humor and they will laugh and they will respond. There is a flip with her, and that's the thing to always see, that she's playing a maid and playing a mammy figure, but she's more than that, and she's telling us something else about inner confidence, and about kind of agency, and a kind of a um, a focus to do things, and she will talk back to these other characters in movies, whether it's Henry Fonda or Barbara Stanwyck in The Mad Miss Manton, and the actors appreciated her. Or if she's talking back to Harlow or and to Clark Gable, and they understand it, and I think that they saw the importance. I really do. So what's your recipe?
Well, we're gonna make Hattie McDaniel's pumpkin pie. And Danny, my friend from TCM community, and also Ruth, they're going to join me this weekend. And we also wanted to throw in some other things. So we're going to try to make her sweet corn pudding. We're going to make her cornbread. We're going to do a whole Thanksgiving prep of Hattie episode.
Oh, that's going to be fabulous. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's gonna be fabulous.
And did she
Yeah.
cook? I'm pretty sure she did
Yeah,
because
she did. Yes, yeah, she cooked, but she also had people who cooked for her. Yes, but no, but uh she did. And she, as far as I know, she also, when she entertained, and there are pictures of her entertaining, they would be it would be rather elaborate. And so she naturally would have help people,
oh
but
yeah.
she supervised it, and um I think that, from what I've heard, in entertaining, she was something of a perfectionist, that she really wanted things in a certain way. And that would be the setting, and it would be the dining, what you were going to have to eat. And the people I interviewed, excuse me, people I interviewed, they never had any complaints. They really didn't. I have a picture, I think it's in Bright Boulevard's Bold Dreams, of an evening where you see Hattie McDaniel and Lena Horne, and I think Herb Jeffries of the Black Westerns is in the picture. Fayette Nicholas of the Nicholas brothers, and Fayette's wife, Jerry Branton, and I think Eddie Rochester Anderson and his wife, Mamie, are in the picture. So they're all there, and you look and you say, oh, gee, I would love to have been at that gathering. I would love to have been at that party. And they all are having a good time, and they're away from some of um, the tensions and problems they might have had at the studios. They're away from that, and they're just enjoying one another's company. And like all movie people, they love to gossip. They love to talk about the studios and so forth, and um, who was at the studio, who they had to work with, the executives. They did all of that, and you sense it, some of it in this picture, and I have other pictures, not in the book, where um, you get a sense of this community, and there she is. She's so pivotal in those pictures, and so and with Lena Horne, you can tell Lena Horne, just, she really adored her. She really did. So no matter what tensions she had, um, there was another side which you're happy to see, where she could enjoy other members of the community, and could share, could these festivities and so forth. It's it's a great thing to see. It really is.
And her house in West Adams here in Los Angeles still stands today. In fact, my friend Danny, where we're going to cook this weekend, he lives around the corner from Hattie. He lives in West
Oh,
Adams. So I'm going to be a stone's throw from her old house.
yes, yes. I have to visit the next time I'm there. She and she was friendly with Louise Beavers, who I mentioned before, who was in the original 34 Imitation of Life, and they were supposed to be rivals competing for the same roles, but they were friends, and Louise Beavers lived near her. And so and I found pictures because my great aunt actually lived in that area, and I found these pictures that my great aunt had taken of them, just they're candid shots, and they're doing different things. I think there's one. I think I did include a couple on Bright Boulevards, where Hattie is by her car, and she loved her cars and so forth, and you see her there, and you see someone like Louise Beavers and the others. It's and California itself, you can see what drew them to California, the bright blue skies, all that sunshine, and a place of promise that they were coming. This is before California had all the smog, Los Angeles and so forth, and they were coming to make a new day for themselves, and and they did, and they altered film history. That they um that the movies had other sounds and had other personalities, and so that's that's something that for the character of American motion pictures, that they contributed. Despite these roles, they brought this other thing to them, which is just great.
I've heard back then they actually got a placard at the end of the day, the supporting performers in general, and that she donated it to Howard University upon her death. And then the plaque just went missing.
Yes, she donated her Oscar, and for what I understand, she donated certain papers and everything to Howard, very old, historically black college, and she the Oscar disappeared, or the plaque. It's and for a long time they didn't know. I think they still don't know what happened to it, but they replaced it. The Academy replaced it in 2023, and so Howard now has that, has her Oscar, the replacement, which would have made her very, very happy. So, that was another thing. It was very sad when that Oscar had just disappeared and they didn't know what had happened to it. But Howard has it now. They have the replacement. So
And she wanted to be buried at what at the time was called Hollywood Memorial Park. But then the owner at the time, Jules Roth, was racist and told her family no. So she wound up buried at Angelus Rosedale.
yeah.
Of course, and our current owner we have now, Tyler Cassidy, reached out to the McDaniel family and they didn't want to disinter
Yeah,
her,
I
which
know.
100%.
Yes, but they do have something there.
Yeah. Yep. We have a memorial plaque and it's or a memorial like well, not plaque, it's like a pink statue thing. And it's
I think I've
right.
seen that. I'm going to
Mhm.
check on. I think I've seen it.
Yeah.
Um, but she, that also I find very sad that they didn't want her buried there.
No.
I mean, that's a terrible thing. And this woman who had been so important to Hollywood, to
Yeah.
the industry, and this final kind of discrimination, it was a terrible thing. But I can understand why the family decided not to have her moved after all that time. But there is a tribute there to her now, which
Yeah.
there should be.
I'll
Again,
take you next time you're.
I will. You'll take me?
Yeah, and it's right by the water, and they planted white flowers like the kind she wore in her hair on Oscar night all around the statue, the monument.
Yeah.
So she's got the nicest piece of waterfront property we have, in my humble
Well,
opinion.
I like hearing that.
Yes,
That's
as a kid.
great. That's great. Um, yes, and she deserves that kind of that kind of tribute. She really does. That she, there were just all sorts of other things as well. I mean, her home, this beautiful home later, in an area where Ethel Waters lived and Louise Beavers and so forth. They tried to evict them from their homes. There were restrictive covenants in Los Angeles that homes couldn't, certain areas couldn't be sold to people of color. And it went to court. And Hattie really was fighting it and had workshop groups talking about it and their strategy for it. And the judge threw it out that they could remain in those homes. But again, I mean, when you look at her and you think these repeated things that just came up, and it's it makes her all the more heroic, the way she dealt with it, and then the way she fought with it, and ultimately, when that case about the homes was thrown out, it that marked a triumph for her. And her Oscar marked a triumph. So she did have those particular things that I'm sure she did take great satisfaction in, which indeed she should have. She really. So it's really something. She was just an amazing woman.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think she's inspiring because when I've read about her, I just think, how did you get out of bed every day? I would be so depressed. It'd be hard to get up and keep going with this. Everywhere you turn, discrimination and prejudice and setback.
Yeah.
It's just astounding. She's not all superheroes wear capes, as the saying goes.
Yeah,
And
precisely.
I feel like Hattie, long before, Black Panther, Hattie was a superhero in
Yeah.
and of herself.
She definitely was. She really was. That she had the talent, she had the drive, she had the perseverance, and she brought about changes. She really did. And so she she's really a heroic figure. She just is there. And quite frankly, certainly in the movies, there have been no one like her before her arrival. And no matter what, there's no one quite like her since, even though we've had wonderful triumphs. She remains distinct. She really does. I mean, a true legend. She both legend and both real woman that she embodies, and that is a beacon of hope for others, that that if she could endure those indignities, those humiliations, and if she could still produce and give us something remarkable, then it gives us the feeling, well, we should persevere as well. It's just it's a great thing to see.
Absolutely.
It really is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it has been such a pleasure and an honor.
Oh, Carrie,
I
love talking to you.
So let's talk food, because I'm kind of hungry. I don't know about y'all, but
well, first we have Hattie's cornbread that I heard you were just talking about. Let's try it. I hope I never made her recipe before.
Donald and I, off camera, we talked about the next time he's out here, it will probably be for TCM Fest. And I said, we'll go to the cemetery and we'll make some cornbread together. And he's like, I'm totally down for that. He's like, I am so down with this. So yeah, maybe we'll all get together.
I'm a huge fan of the cornbread.
Oh, good. I hope I made it all right.
My girlfriend's mom, Annie Maureen Hunt in Atlanta. She's one of the best cornbread makers, and I always beg for it when I go to visit.
Oh, I'm gonna need a way bigger slice.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you more. That's your first piece. If you want butter on it.
Okay. All right. So, by the way, we had to do these in advance for this episode, but I will post all of the recipes on the Hollywood Kitchen website.
Yes.
And these are all really worth doing. So
probably don't.
And
Okay.
we've taken photos as we've put the food together. So there'll be photos of the pie being made.
It's in the oven.
And it's in the oven right now. I think it's got another 15, 16 minutes or so.
Shall we
Okay,
try?
to Hattie.
To Hattie
To Hattie.
McDaniel.
Mm,
Mm.
mm, mm.
You know, that would be great in stuffing as well.
Yes.
Which,
Yes.
Mm.
I love
By the way,
it.
hang on a second, I'll tell you something. So good. Oh my
Very
God.
yummy. Mhm.
Mm. I realized I've done about 4 stuffing episodes on Hollywood Kitchen. Angie Schneider and I talked to Tyrone Power's grandson, who, by the way, looks a lot like him, and we made a stuffing that had chestnuts.
Ooh.
And then I did another stuffing of Marilyn Monroe's. That was a little challenging.
What did she have in it that was
Oh
weird?
gosh, she had like, I forget all the details, but it was very tricky. And then the 2 stuffings I think were the biggest triumphs for me. Lou Costello's granddaughter Marky sent me a Costello family recipe,
Yeah.
and I ate so much of it in Rick's kitchen, I nearly passed out because I was so like, oh my
We
God.
made it together. I was on that
It's
episode.
called stuffing for a reason.
Yeah. And then also Catherine Grayson's granddaughter, I did an episode,
Ooh.
and she gave me the Catherine Grayson family recipe. So
Wow,
the
I didn't know
Costello
that.
and the Grayson episodes, both of those are direct from the family confirmation. This person at least ate it if they didn't make it. And both of those are on my website, so you can literally access both of those
It
recipes.
will be when I'm going to make my turkey.
And I've also made the Ava Gardner pecan pie. Shout out to Laura Stalker. We love you. Also the Betty Davis cranberry mousse. Danny, you and I made that a few
that
years
was good.
ago. So we've kind of got building up a Hollywood Kitchen Thanksgiving guide around here.
One day we'll have to do the whole turkey dinner and follow all the stars recipes.
Yes, I would love that, actually.
Really
Well-
good, really moist.
Yeah, that's the
Flavorful.
trick with
Mhm.
cornbread. It can be dry as toast. I mean,
Right.
yes, you do need a beverage with any cornbread, but
Yeah.
it is good. And
Well, it would go great with like a chili.
yes,
Chili night would be really good with it.
perfect.
Great way to, soak up the juices and,
Mhm.
and make it all more comfort food,
And it's winter time, which cornbread and chili is a perfect like seasonal winter.
God, it's so cool now. I remember doing Hollywood kitchens in this house when it's about 105 degrees.
Yeah, there's been some hot
Right?
ones. We've had some hot ones here.
We sure have.
So I also made, and this I've never made anything like it before. I hope it's good, but this is her sweet corn pudding. When I was putting it together, it was like so liquidy. You scald a cup and a half of milk. I chopped up actual corn kernels
Mhm.
and eggs, and that's basically it. I'm like, how's that
Wow.
gonna set? But I think it did set. So let me
Great.
give
Yes.
you a dollop.
Oh, yes.
So here you go. I hope it's good.
Well, it's a little like mac and cheese, honestly.
I mean, what can you go wrong with
Right?
corn and
Yeah, and I do that too. I love to take the corn off the cob,
Mhm.
and I'll saute it with like tomatoes, onions, and spinach or asparagus. I love it.
Oh, I'm in.
And sometimes I char the tomatoes and the
Mm.
corn and then put it together. It's really
I don't
lovely.
know what you guys think of this. This is very flavorful.
I like it. I never would have thought to put corn in a pudding.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I mean, and again, perfect for Thanksgiving as a side.
Definitely.
You feel it tastes of custard in there. The
Mhm.
texture of the custard.
Yeah, it's very creamy.
Mm-hmm.
I even had to look up, like, how do you scald milk? But I guess it's just right before it boils.
Yes, that's that.
I thought
Right
it
as
was something more complicated.
when it starts to bubble,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's a scalding. That now you get to pull it off. But right as it starts to come across the top of the
Yeah, I was
pot.
thinking.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
into this.
Mm-hmm.
This
really
is
like
very
this.
versatile. You could add like bell peppers or
Yeah.
You
spices.
definitely could.
Spicy would be good.
Yeah,
Let's
or
spice
like
in
you could
there.
dice some kind of meat, chicken or ham, or
Right.
something like that.
Even a
Yeah.
jalapeno would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Recipes that are customizable that can easily be made into something different.
And we were talking when we were putting the pie in the oven because, at least in Hattie McDaniel's recipes, and these are vintage from the 30s, and it said a hot oven, 400 degrees. Often it'll just say warm oven, hot oven.
Mhm.
Like, what's that? And sometimes it'll say cook until it's done.
Yes.
And we're so used to like telling exactly what we're supposed to do with every step.
Mm. Man, this is good.
Mhm.
I do like it. Have more of both.
Mm.
And it would be good for breakfast too.
Yeah, it almost is like
Yeah.
a
Really kind of bit of
corn
breakfast,
omelet.
yeah.
On toast.
Mm,
Mm.
that was really good.
Mhm.
I say so myself.
Mm.
Thank you, Hattie.
Thank you, Danny, for making these in your home. I really appreciate that. Oh my gosh.
Did he? Because I tuned back in when he was talking about Louise Beavers, who did live just down the street from her. But did he talk about Beulah much and how she took over for Hattie after she sadly died?
Mm-hmm. And one thing I really liked about what he was talking about, he said Louise Beavers and Hattie were actually friends. And I thought
Oh, yeah.
that was really cool because, we live in a culture that wants to pit women against each other at
Mhm.
every turn.
Mhm.
Right.
The idea that they were similar types. Like she and Lena Horne were different physical types.
Right.
She and Louise Beavers were similar types.
And I'm
of
sure
women.
they were up for many of the same roles.
There
There
were some
weren't that
roles.
many.
But the idea that they could be friends
Mhm.
instead of bitter enemies fighting for what I like the idea that they could
But
still
there's
be
enough for
friends.
both. You know, we're all
Yeah.
right. We're all right.
Mhm.
You know.
And they were both involved in those restrictive covenant fights, which happily, I'm not sure I'd be in this house because our woman we bought it from wouldn't have been able to buy it
Mhm.
in 1958.
And I like that they were friends, and I think that's really beautiful because Lord knows they certainly could relate to what the other was going through.
Without
And
a
again,
doubt. There
there
wasn't
were-
a whole lot.
Yeah, there weren't a whole lot of people you could call and go, "Hey, this happened to me today. How
Mhm.
did you deal with this?" Or
Mhm.
how did this
Mhm.
feel when it happened to you?" There weren't that many people. That's the thing about being a trailblazer. There's often no one that
Right.
can walk that's walked in your shoes before that you can talk
Mhm.
to about how that felt.
I mean, they on the whole, they had a lot of camaraderie with women across the board because there were a lot of things that, we couldn't do and they were restricted to us, but especially women of color.
Mhm.
And there were only a few of them. You had to stick together.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It would just be tantamount to to suicide to be at each other.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know?
To share the
Yes.
whatever
Yes. Because there'd be
issues you're dealing
somebody
with
coming
at the
along
studio.
that would stoke that division,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
So yes, it was
I did read an article that from the Defender that was so moving about her funeral.
Yeah.
Lena Horne was there, she was crying. But you
Mm-hmm.
know who gave a beautiful talk was Edward Arnold, of all people. I think she had just recently made a movie with him, maybe. Does that ring a bell? But his baritone voice, I love him. But it was very well attended just down the street.
mhm.
And although her grave itself there is quite, it's right when you walk in the entrance of Rosedale. If anyone wants to go to Angeles Rosedale, Anna May Wong is there. It was the first cemetery in LA that accepted people of all races. And you just go up you just walk up the path right from the entrance to the left, and it's there, fairly nondescript, but we always stop by there. We put a rock on her grave, as is our Jewish custom, and say hello.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad that we have a memorial marker for her at Hollywood Forever. And it's, as I say to Donald, it's the nicest piece of waterfront property we got. It's just gorgeous. And it's surrounded by white flowers, like the kind she wore in her hair when she won the Oscar.
Mm.
And deservedly so, that she have that there.
Yeah.
There was no reason why that she should have been turned away other than, this outright prejudice. So
It's kind
Exactly.
of shocking to think about.
and to think like, what really?
Oscar winner.
What have you won?
Well, some people have asked me on the tour, they'll say, well, our current owner, when he took over, Tyler Cassidy in 1988, he reached out to her family and offered to disinter her, all expenses paid, and move her to Hollywood Forever. And the family didn't want to. And people on my tour sometimes will say, why didn't they do it? And I'm like, well, first off, they felt that Rosedale accepted her, that she needed to stay there. And secondly, I've met a lot of people in the death care community doing what I do, and they said disinterment is very traumatic. It is like
It's a big deal.
losing your loved one all over again. And unless it's going to like solve a cold case or something like that, they very rarely do that. It is very rarely.
Although you have Judy Garland, and that was a case where they moved her. What year did they move her?
They moved her. We got her in January of 2017.
Oh, that recently.
So yeah, not too long ago. But it's a rare occurrence.
Yeah.
So I get why the
also,
family.
We're building this, great, memorial to her. and it's Hollywood. It's where Judy should be.
Right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
because she's in the Judy Garland Pavilion now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes, and deservedly so. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and she and Hattie share a birthday. They were both born on June 10th. Judy
Oh.
Garland and Hattie McDaniel.
I don't think they ever made a movie together, did they?
No.
Yeah, I don't think they did either, but yeah, they do share.
Both had a connection to Clark Gable.
That is true. That is true. But yeah, I just love her so much, and I'm so glad that we did this episode.
Me too.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally.
Long time.
Let's see if there's any questions here
Yes.
from the
And
audience.
I am going to do a pie check.
Check the pie.
Yes.
Excuse me.
Right, hang on. Let's see. Anybody have any questions for us? Let's see if they're rolling in. Great interview. Thank you. Yes, we're very happy to be speaking with Donald. Let's see. Catherine Bird wants to know, Ruth, is that Cary Grant on your water bottle? Yes,
Of
this
course
is
it
Cary
is.
Grant on Ruth's water bottle because
He's on her shoes too, if you must know.
that's right. That's right.
Have you met Ruth?
Yes. Karen Burroughs Hansberry, next time you come to Los Angeles, we will make you Hattie's corn pudding. Because oh my
Yes.
God, if I could
Chicago
tell
rules.
you here right now, Karen Hansberry said, I love corn pudding. And I'm like, next time you come out, we could have a Hattie party and just make some of the stuff. And yeah, someone asked about Cary Grant being on your water bottle right here. And I'm like, yeah, have you met Ruth?
Yes. Catherine has met me. Catherine, you know.
All right. How's the pie coming along?
We're getting there. We're getting there. It's a deep dish one, so I need a little more time for it to cook. If I had done the smaller, it would have cooked a little.
Well, should we keep talking about Hattie, or should we just end the show and then post pictures later in the pie? Like, what would you like to do?
We can do some questions and then
Yeah.
we'll post pictures of it
Okay.
when it gets done.
Well, we really didn't get any questions,
didn't.
just a few comments, really. So
Sometimes they're there and you just can't
she
see.
wants to see your shoes. You want to hold up your shoes
Oh,
for the
yeah, I talked to that Cary Grant was on your shoes in a
Yeah.
oblique way. Maybe you didn't want to show your thoughts. Oh, telling secret. Don't leave the room here, Ruth.
I had no idea you outed me on my croc
Just
bedazzle.
show both of your Crocs.
Yeah, show the Crocs. Show the Crocs.
How about I post the pictures of
All right.
them?
She doesn't
Okay.
want to take her shoes off. She's a classy lady.
Yeah, I
right,
can't do that with
right.
feet around and everything. So I will. I swear, I will take a picture of them and I will post them.
How many Cary Grant t-shirts do you have? What else do you have with Cary Grant on it?
So I have a bag that's this little Cary bag that has Cary Grant on it, and then I always wear my Cary Grant pen. And matter of fact, I bought several, so I think that will take me to the grave.
Now, did Cary ever do a movie with Hattie McDaniel? It's not coming to mind.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
No, I do not believe though that they ever did a movie together. They probably knew each other and were in some of the same circles potentially. But I also have from one of the cruises I was on, Rebecca created a Cary Grant bag for me that she sewed from different movie posters that she got and put it on fabric and then sewed this bag together. And she used one of the TCM blankets as part of the bag also. So I've got that. The Cary Grant head came with me to the cruise, and that was hysterical. I've got the Cary Grant doll that I'm gonna have a tuxedo made for him.
Wow. I'm not getting around.
You've been to Carrie's hometown.
No, and that's on my list. Carrie comes home to go to Bristol.
Yeah.
I've gotten to be really good friends with the lady Charlotte Church who does that festival, and so I look forward to having an opportunity to do that, and then just little things that people get me. I'm really particular about. I don't want just anything because I have a very small space, and I'm gonna stay in a small space because I can't have a lot of stuff. But it's a lot of fun, and
I think I told you once that I was in the Malibu house.
yes,
Which because a friend of mine's college roommate lived there at least a few years ago, and they still had some of the furniture that Cary Grant owned. And my favorite thing was his dresser had glass inserts in all the drawers, which most of us would not want because you don't want to go in those drawers. But of course, you know, every shirt was perfectly, every piece of under, it was all perfectly folded and lined up. And, you know,
I've driven by the Malibu house and stopped and taken pictures.
it's gorgeous.
And I would totally love to see the inside of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that would be lovely to have an opportunity to see that. I wonder if they do tours. Should I just leave a sticky note?
Just leave a sticky.
Life, sometimes you don't ask, you don't get. And so
Yes.
they can say is no,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that's no big
When
deal.
I
Yes.
looked up Hattie and the Defender, I was surprised to find this early thing from 1927 because she was a musical star first. And it's this number she recorded called Boohoo Blues. I don't, you probably can't see that, but it says, a sure enough mournful number by Hannah McDaniel. They called it Race Records back then. And she was really well known. She didn't get to, I mean, she sings in Showboat, but she didn't get to sing that much, which is unfortunate.
You're right. She does sing a little bit, but not. It's not a feature. Yeah,
Mhm.
it was. She wasn't in a musical in that perspective. And, you know.
She should have been. I'd pay to
She
see a
totally
Hattie
should have
McDaniel musical in like a heartbeat.
Well, there were lots of articles when she wasn't always that lucky in love, I must say, but she had how many? Three husbands?
Four.
Four.
Mhm.
Well, you know, yeah, some of us don't marry because we can't pick a winner, so.
You're better off. Oh, I loved it when she was passing through Chicago, Karen. She had a bunch of cousins there. I immediately wanted to like research all
I'll
of
hold
them.
it for the computer.
And so she was on a nationwide tour. I don't know if it was after Gone with the Wind or since you went away and visited her cousins. She just got a ton of, if anyone has access to the Chicago Defender archives, there's so many good articles about her.
That's fantastic.
Oh, and here's where she's getting an award from, I think it's the Black Sorority somewhere.
Okay.
And, you know, she was just very, very active. There were some unpleasant articles about there was a radio show where someone was talking to her, a white person used the N-word, and thank God, this was in 1941, and thank God there was an outcry. And so they apologized to her specifically. But
was that Louise Beavers in She Done Him Wrong? I think I see Catherine has said that that was her. She wondered if Hattie McDaniel's had auditioned for it. I bet you they did audition for some of the same things. I would not be surprised if they did, and that the fact that they were friends, and you know, again,
sure.
there were only a couple of them, so you know, and they were always maids in almost all these movies we watched. There was always
And as we talked about, her Oscar wound up missing. She donated it to Howard University, and then it went missing in the 1960s, and they never found it. So, just a few years ago, Jacqueline Stewart and people from Turner Classic Movies and the Academy, they replaced the Oscar and threw it to Howard. I'll post the link for the story on that, but she did get a replacement. I wish it hadn't have taken so long, but she did get one.
I was happy to learn, looking at the articles after she died, that someone established, I don't know if it was with her funds, Hannah McDaniel Memorial Scholarship. I don't know how long that lasted, but that was wonderful. And also there was a Hattie McDaniel Trophy awarded to Dorothy Dandridge. And then, Joe Lewis accepted it for her. So, you know, she lived on after she was beloved in LA. I just have the article about her funeral. I'm just going to read the beginning. The deep, resonant voice of internationally famous screen star Edward Arnold saying goodbye, Hannah McDaniel. The rich contralto tones of radio star Lillian Randolph, touchingly rendering I've done my work. Towering orchid-adorned floral tributes transform the rostrum and choir loft of a multicolored garden of radiant blossoms inside spacious independent Church of God in Christ. Lena Horne, James Cagney were in tears. Just a lot of people from Hollywood were there. Announcing not only as a great artist, but a great friend in our group, Louise Beavers. So, you know, she was beloved by the whole community.
Yeah. And you can tell that she gave it back too. You know, she wanted to give back, and her time with the Hollywood Canteen, it meant a lot to her, and the friendship she created with, a lot of those stars there, like Betty Davis. And that's great. It's widely talked about, the friendship she had with the other stars of that time. So
And I'm so glad her house survives. Again, I don't know who lives there now, but a lot of the houses before this, my neighborhood is now an HBOZ protected zone. You're not allowed to tear them down.
wow,
Um,
that's
Which more of LA was like that.
Yeah, but before, there were like, oops, it burned down. There were some shady
Yeah.
things, but her
Mhm.
house is still there. So,
Mhm.
God, we should have a Hattie McDaniel museum in it.
I wish. Oh my gosh, I wish.
I wonder if who is she? I don't remember seeing her in the Academy Museum, but she should be. They should have an exhibit for her, or film
Yeah.
festival, something.
Seriously.
Mhm, mhm. But she, she will continue to live on, and that's what's wonderful about TCM, and it's wonderful with things like Hollywood Kitchen, and the fact that no one was forgotten as long as you keep saying their name
Right.
without a doubt.
Well, I never walk into Rosedale without my son, and I know exactly where to go, and we just say hello to Hattie McDaniel as we go on our way.
Well, guys, we'll post pictures of the pie if that's
Yes,
cool.
we definitely
And
will post pictures of the pie. It's getting nice, good, and done. But again, I think because I did the deep dish instead of the
Yes.
regular.
We'll think of you when we're eating it in a little while.
yes.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here. It's nice to see everybody. Hello, everyone.
Thank you, everybody who's tuned in. Keep watching for more food, fun, and film history from Hollywood Kitchen.
Cheers.
Bye.